Welcome to the Tour of Hungary week-long highlights show where we will see the most interesting details of this year's race. We started this first stage on the 2021 edition of Tour of Hungary in the beautiful Lake Balaton, and that was the highlight motive of the first three stages that visited both shores, the south and the north shore of the beautiful Lake Balaton. First stage, 173 kilometers long stage from Siófok to Kaposvár. Pretty hilly stage, I would say. We went from Siófok to Balatonföldár, where we had the first intermediate sprint. Then in the place of Igal, we had the first KOM of this year's race, and then in the following we had two more intermediate sprints in that circuit that we saw, repeated circuit that we saw in the city of Kaposvár. This is the official start that we saw in Siófok. Rainy start, I would say, that departed from the city of Siófok. Then on the first intermediate sprint, Edvard Theuns got the first points on the intermediate sprints in front of Tad Jones and Rudy Barbier, two riders of Israel Startup Nation. And soon after that intermediate sprint, there was a breakaway formed with three riders: Patrick Stotz, Diego Pablo Sevilla, and Fabio van der Basche, the Belgian from Sports Vlaanderen. The most aggressive on the second intermediate sprint in the city of Balaton-Bolgar was Patrick Stotz, who took the maximum number of points in front of Diego Pablo Sevilla. 1 point left was taken by Fabio van den Bosche. This is the beautiful mirador, the viewpoint of this area that we saw in Balatonföldár. Famous Hugo's Alley. This is just a graphic confirmation on how the points at this intermediate sprint were split. We could see that few of the continental teams and pro-continental teams were working on the front. There was always present figure of the reigning Hungarian national champion Viktor Flutas from the Vittoria Giotti team. These are the famous ruins of St. Egid, Benedictine monastery and basilica. And then in one moment, some 27 kilometers till the end, with the time gap at these moments on 33 seconds for the breakaway. A familiar face showed up at the front. That was Juraj Sagan, of course, reigning Slovakian champion, and also the brother of the triple world champion Peter Sagan, who was and still is in these moments competing on the first Grand Tour of the season, the Tour of Italy. This is the result of the third, intermediate sprint of the first stage. It was Patrick Stotz who took the maximum number of points on that third intermediate sprint. And Fabio van den Bosche, some 7.3 kilometers before the finish line, was the last surviving rider of that breakaway. And some 2 kilometers before the end, where we see these images starting to form the groups of and the lead-out trains of the teams. Pretty hectic as always in these situations. see the familiar figure and style of ride of Juraj Sagan here at the front. This was one of the curves that was set up some 1,200 meters from the finish line. So some 700 meters till the end. We had a small uprise finish in the city of Kaposvar. It was led out first by one of the Jumbo Visma riders, then followed by Bora Hansgrohe and Team Bahrain Victorious. At the end, 3 of the sprinters of the World Tour teams were in the contention, but the most capable and the fastest of all was the German rider of Team Bahrain Victorious, who had a phenomenal, powerful start until the end, and he finished victorious in Kaposvar in front of the most successful sprinter of the last year's edition, Jakub Mareško. It was an incredible win for Bahrain Victorious. Just the day before they had the success on the Giro d'Italia with Gino Mäder, the young Swiss who won his first Grand Tour victory at the Tour of Italy. Like an announcement of that victory came in the success of Phil Bauhaus here in the city of Kaposvar. Jakub Mareško was following his wheel, but looked like he was short a couple of tenths of meters away from a possible victory. And this is the result of the stage 1. Bauhaus, Mareško, Meus, Barbier, Dupont, Groves, Kooi, Larsen, Blikra and Dainese. You can see the youngest fans receiving here the racing bottles of one of the competitors, and this is Phil Bauhaus with his daily trophy for the winner of the stage. But he also received another memorabilia from this first stage, and that's the leader's jersey, the yellow jersey of Tour of Hungary. In the points classification, Phil Bauhaus also led in front of Jakub Mareško and Patrick Stotz, the most aggressive rider of the day from the team Voster. Apart from being aggressive, he was also the most successful rider in the mountains classification, and he got the right to keep the red jersey, have it on his back on the stage number 2. Among the Hungarian riders in the best Hungarian rider classification, the national team member of Hungary, Adam Karl, had the opportunity to wear the white jersey on the second stage. The second stage that started with rain and some 16 degrees Celsius, 183 kilometers long stage from Balaton-Füred to Nagy-Kanyusa, as we visited on the first stage the southern shore of Lake Balaton. The second day was reserved for the northern shore. We will see shortly now how the map of the second stage looked like. A pretty hilly second stage with 2 climbs at the beginning in the first half of the stage and 3 intermediate sprints in the second half, with Topolka, Heavis and Zalacross intermediate sprints. This is how it looked in the opening of the stage at the city of Balatonfüred. Everybody was wearing their raincoats and overshoes. Everybody was ready for a day full of rain. We had the chance to pass by the Benedictine Abbey at the city of Tihany. This was ahead of the race, led by Alexander Kamp, János Pelikan, Sergio Roman, Martin Galan. From Caja Rural, there was Pavel Bernas, Maciej Paterski and Emanuele Onesti of the team Giotti Vittoria. This is the fight for the KOM points on the first categorized climb of the day at Balaton Solos. Maciej Paterski of Worcester took the maximum points in front of the 2 Spanish riders, Galan and Pablo Sevilla. Paterski was also triumphant on the second categorized climb of the day at the place Vigan Pedent. And in Tapolka, Maciej Paterski continued his aggressive ride, taking out the maximum on the intermediate sprint. On the second intermediate sprint at Heavis i Tofurdo, it was one of the Androni Giocattoli riders, that was János Zsombor Pelikan, took the maximum points in front of Paterski and Diego Pablo Sevilla. Very animated breakaway group the whole day. Very animated cycling fans along the road. This is the fight for the last intermediate sprint of this second stage. Intermediate sprint in the village of Zalakaros. Again won by Maciej Paterski. Riders of Caja Rural and Giotti Vittoria soon enough could not follow the tempo of the front group, and along came in Diego Pablo Sevilla. So we have a group of 3 riders. There was Onesti, Galan and Sevilla. We're struggling to keep up with the tempos dictated on the front. A few kilometers down the road, they were overtaken by the big group behind. That saw Juraj Sagan again on his duties on chasing the breakaway group. This is the moment, some 14 kilometers to go, and Juraj Sagan managed to catch the first 3 of the original 7 that day's breakaway. You can see now almost desperate intent of János Pelikan to go for another attack, but just 3 kilometers out of out of the finish line. The big group was managing to get the... So we'll see the fall of Patrick Gamper and Gal Glevar. That second stage in these last 3 kilometers. And this was Ben Zwihoff. Ben Zwihoff and one of the Sport Vlaanderen riders. The fall was provoked by one of the race marshals. Was closing in into the last few hundred meters of the sprint in the city of Nagykanizsa. Again, we could see well-placed Phil Bauhaus, who was in the front. It was a good intent and good try by the riders of the Bahrain victorious, but it was too late when he started his sprint, Phil Bauhaus. At the other end, Jordi Meus, the Belgian of Bora-Hansgrohe, a very good placement from his teammates. And Belgian managed to get his first victory here at Tour of Hungary, just in front of the Italian Dainese. Phil Bauhaus managed to get to the 3rd place in the classification of this stage. Although he was very badly positioned at the beginning of the sprint, he managed to overcome a lot of the good riders and good sprinters. This meant that he will lose the yellow jersey. Our new leader of the general classification would be the winner of the stage number 2, and that was Jordi Meus, rider of Bora-Hansgrohe. Just a graphic confirmation of that general classification led by Jordi Meus, followed by Bauhaus, and on the 3rd place was Maciej Paterski. Jordi Meus also led the general points classification. And he had the chance to wear the green jersey. In the mountains classification, Maciej Paterski wore for the first time the red shirt for the leader of the mountains classification. And it will turn out that he will not get it off until the end of this year's Tour of Hungary. While in the best Hungarian rider classification, János Pelikan wore the white jersey after that phenomenal ride in the breakaway. But that same day, something extraordinary happened. On that same day, Walter Attila, the winner of the Tour of Hungary 2020, managed to come to his first leader jersey, and not just his first leader jersey, the leader jersey of the entire Hungary. He was the first Hungarian rider with a leader jersey in one of the 3 Grand Tour races. That had a big meaning, big impact on the Hungarian cycling and sports community. And everybody was thrilled and emotionally filled, I would say, with joy that in a country as Hungary it is, with such a great sports legacy. There is a rider, very young rider, that managed to come and succeed. Such a great and immense success as it is, having a pink jersey on the Tour of Italy. We Love You, Ati was the leitmotif of this Tour of Hungary. Definitely after that big news broke up in the world of cycling, and we came again to the Balaton Lake for the third stage of this year's Tour of Hungary 2021. It was the 145-kilometer long stage from Veszprém to Tata. I would correct myself, it was 142 kilometers. We were going into the northwest direction to the place of Tata, which is also very familiar and very famous city of in the common life of Hungary. But incidentally, Tata was never a host of any of the stages of Tour of Hungary, and this was their premiere edition, which meant a lot and had a lot of significance for this central Hungarian city. These are the images from the start in Veszprém. And soon enough, we had a breakaway group with David Lozano, Banasek, Stotz, Aljas Jarc, Ferenc Szolyosi. Nicely mixed breakaway group with riders from Spain, Poland, Slovenia, and Hungary. Maciej Paterski, of course, he was in his quest for the points in the mountain classification, and soon after he left the breakaway group when he was assured that he will take the maximum point, and he left Patrik Stotz to defend his red jersey in the mountains classification. Patrik Stotz did that job phenomenally. Denying David Lozano at that second KOM of the third stage. You can see Jordi Moose instructed by one of the Israel Startup Nation riders to take his place. This is the fight for the first intermediate sprint, second intermediate sprint in Oroszlani. Won by Norbert Benešek from Poland. This was Ferenc Szolyosi. Was the third stage rider on duty from the Hungarian national team. Only left were the three riders, Benešek, Jarc, and David Lozano, who were overtaken some 10 kilometers until the finish line. And then the very complicated and technically demanding last 3 kilometers on the third stage while we were entering Tata. Say, technically demanding a lot of curves, a lot of traffic furniture that provoked one of the biggest falls of the whole Tour of Hungary. It was some 1.2 kilometers till the finish line. We had a reduced group of riders who were in front. The best protected of them all was Phil Bauhaus, who was there at the front with 2 of his colleagues. It was Fred Wright and Heinrich Hausler riding for Phil Bauhaus. Also among the riders was Mike Tunison, who had a phenomenally timed attack. There was Fred Wright in front of him, but he was not good enough, not strong enough for Mike Tunison, who was sprinting. But at the end, even him was not sure that he got it. First he thought he got it, but we would see well shaken up Jordi Moos, and it was not so sure. The photo finish will bring the decision and the final decision of the winner of this third stage of this quick checkup from Rudi Seliger of the potential concussion that got Jordi Moos. At the end, we will see now the images of the photo finish from this finish line in Tata. It was at the end. It was with a good jump off the bike, Phil Bauhaus, who got the win. Another stage win for Phil Bauhaus. Another chance to swap the leadership with Jordi Moos.
Last trophy is riding for Bahrain victorious Phil Bauhaus.
Phil Bauhaus, with the sun on his face, takes the win in this third stage, but also takes the leader's jersey in the general classification. And in the points classification, he firms up at the first place, having the chance to wear 2 jerseys. That's the green jersey on his back. In the mountains classification, there was the things were starting to get more clear. Maciej Paterski of Worcester team was confirming his very good climbing form, having the chance to wear second day in a row the red jersey, and Janos Pelikan almost subscribed for the lead in the white jersey, the best Hungarian rider classification. And this was the stage 4, even before the start of Tour of Hungary. We knew that the Queen stage, stage 4, 202 kilometers long stage with a uphill finish on the highest point of Hungary on the climb at Kekes, will probably decide, not probably, but certainly decide the winner of the general classification, like in the last 2 editions of Tour of Hungary. This is the map. We started the race in Balas-Sagyarmat. Balas-Sagyarmat, the most northern city of this year's Tour of Hungary. We had 1 intermediate sprint in Szczecin. This is Balas-Sagyarmat, the city that hosted that famous stage 2 years ago when on Kekes won Chris Nylands. famous Latvian professional of Israel Startup Nation, misfortune professional this year, who saw his crash on the first introduction time trial at the Tour of Italy, which after that fall he needed to abandon the race. But in the meantime, on the first intermediate sprint in Szczecin, it was Phil Bauhaus who took the maximum number of points in front of Mike Teunissen and Tom van Afsbroek, a German, Dutch and Belgian rider. These are the images of some of the most popular hiking spots in this region of Hungary. And then soon after, as in the previous stages, we had a breakaway group formed with Gilles de Wilde, Peter Rikunov, Maciej Paterski. Maciej Paterski, who was mostly interested in the KOM points, where he scored well. You can see at Matrahaza, at the first KOM of this longest stage of the 2021 edition of Tour of Hungary. He took all 6 points. It just confirmed his lead in the red jersey competition, in the classification of the best climbers at Tour of Hungary. This is Gilles de Wilde, as you can see in the back, the number 92, the Belgian from Sport Vlaanderen Baloise. This is Adrian Kurek from Mazowsze Serce Polski. And this is Peter Rikunov from Gazprom Rusfellow. Nice chit-chat of Marcel Sieberg, joker in the pack for the Bahrain Victorious team. That was the moment when we started the climb, the 20-kilometer long climb on Kekesteto. You can see climb with 731 meter of altitude difference, averaging 2.6%, with a maximum percentage of gradient of 9.6. This was Maciej Paterski, who done his job. Damien Hoosen took the points on the last intermediate sprint with Dainese and Romain Combeau, two of the DSM riders. So Maciej Paterski was firmly in the lead of the mountains classification, so he was not afraid that he's going to be endangered of anyone in this front group of favorites, I would say. This was Barnabas Peck of Team Bike Exchange, who he was a man on a mission, sent out by the Bike Exchange team and advised by Matthew Hyman, their sports director, on this race. The great Lake Sasto, the lake on the highest altitude in Hungary. This is the famous Hungarian Olympic Center, Matrahaza, where the director was following closely all the time János Pelik, the young Hungarian, the leader of the best Hungarian rider classification, who was marking Barnabas Peck, his compatriot from the Hungarian national team, and also rider of Bike Exchange. When I say marking, he was defending his white jersey against him. And then in some 2 kilometers from the finish line, it was Caja Rural's Orlando Garcia Sosa who went into attack, was closely followed by one of the Trek Segafredo riders, Antonio Tiberi. But in the same time, Damien Hoosen, who finished on the podium last year here at the Tour of Hungary, was pretty calm. He didn't react on this attack. He knew that there is still a lot to go. There is a lot more time to go for a real attack that happened some 900 meters from the finish line. Damien Hoosen soon managed to overcome Orlando Garcia Sosa. From the back was coming Ben Hermans, who did the same thing with the young Colombian. Then totally demoralized, Orlando Sosa was overcome by Antonio Tiberi, but more importantly, it was Damien Hoosen's win on the John-Josh Kekes. And what a win it was for the Australian Silver Fox of the team Bike Exchange. Followed by Ben Hermans, Antonio Tiberi, and Colombian, misfortunate Colombian Orlando Sosa. He immediately finished on the floor. Congratulated by his one of his gregarios in this feat. That was young Italian Kevin Corleone. This was again the moment when he overcame Orlando Sosa. And these are the results of the stage 4, the Queen stage of this year's Tour of Hungary. Damien Hoosen in front of Ben Hermans and Antonio Tiberi. And of course, totally deserved win for Damien Hoosen, and totally deserved the right to wear the leader's jersey on the last stage, stage number 5, that will see their ending of the race in Budapest.
Congratulations!
In the points classification, the things were more or less clear. Phil Bauhaus had a 20-point lead in front of Jordi Moos, and 35 points lead in front of Ben Hermans. Maciej Paterski with the points that he got on this stage just confirmed his leadership in the mountains classification, and it was almost certain that he will end up in this as a winner in this classification on this Tour of Hungary. János Pelikan, after a great fight he showed in the last kilometers on the climb of Kekes, had the right to keep the white jersey and keep the dream of being in the most prestigious Hungarian rider jersey on the last stage in Budapest. That's a circuit stage on that closed circuit around the city park of Budapest. 92-kilometer long stage, going in the length of 7.2 kilometers with 3 intermediate sprints along the route. We'll just now see the satellite mapping of this 7.2 kilometer long circuit, and those 12 laps the riders had in front of them. So after the 3rd, 6th and 9th pass, we had the intermediate sprint. This is how it looked on the Hero Square in front of the Central Park here in Budapest. Beautiful scenery, beautiful stage for the Tour of Hungary ending, and beautiful weather on top that didn't disappointed organizers, neither the viewers and the audience and fans of cycling here in the Hungarian capital. With 11 laps to go, just after the ending of the first lap, we had the first incident where one of the Hungarian national team riders was involved in a fall, along with young Santiago Buitrago Sanchez, Colombian of the Bahrain victorious team. Colombian stood up with a painful grimace on his face, but he managed to get back to the final group and continued racing. Then we saw the first runaway group that was formed with 4 riders, riders of Iolo, Astana Premier Tech, Sport Vlaanderen Baloise, and Androni Giocattoli, famous Szczecin medicinal bath. Salute from one of the Jumbo Visma riders. Of course, we had the rider of Worcester, Mateusz Grabis. Jordi Farlo, Mateusz Grabis and Manuel Boaro were the riders who split the points on the first intermediate sprint, while we watched the beautiful images of the building of the Hungarian parliament just on the shore of the river of Danube, the biggest river, the second longest river in Europe, but the longest one for sure in the central part of Europe. Saw just in a brief moment the development of the second intermediate sprint won by Jordi Farlo in front of Mateusz Grabis and Manuele Boarro. There present was from Iolo Kometa, the Hungarian Erik Fetter, defending the status of and the pride of the Hungarian cycling was Erik Fetter here at the last stage in Budapest, a young rider from Budapest, just 21 years old, rider of the Iolo Kometa team. So now at the last intermediate sprint, Manuel Boarro took the maximum points in front of Jordi Farlo and the Polish Mateusz Grabis. The time gap that they had slowly started to melt away. And some 10-11 kilometers till the end, they were again overtaken by the big group, but that just sounded as an invitation to the young Astana Premier Tech Kazakh rider Yevgeny Fedorov to get in another attack. Never looked like it would be successful. Couldn't make more than 4 seconds of time gap. Fedorov, at the end, we had a sprint finish that was really well prepared for the Phil Bauhaus in one moment. There was Mike Tunison, there was Rudy Barbier, but the most capable in it turns out to be the 30-year-old Belgian Ed Toons from Trek Segafredo. very, very good ride, very good team ride by the Trek Segafredo team. Emil Slepins and Alexander Kamp were accompanying him during these last few kilometers. It was a small breach of like almost verbal contact and dispute in between Mike Tunison and Rudy Barbier. At the end, there was no grave incident in between them. Thankfully, there was no at all incidents during this sprint finish, and this was the result of the stage 5. Edvard Toons in front of Olaf Koic. Trek Segafredo rider took the win in Budapest, prestigious win in the Hungarian capital. Damien Hoosen had the pleasure to keep his yellow jersey and to be crowned as the winner of the general classification for the Tour of Hungary edition 2021. In front of Ben Hermans and Antonio Tiberi. In the points classification, triumphed Phil Bauhaus with 2 stage wins on his saldo, winning the green jersey in the points classification. In the mountains classification, the climbers classification, Maciej Paterski of the Worcester ATS team finished with an 8-point lead in front of his team colleague Patrick Stotz. And in the best Hungarian classification, triumphed Janos Zsombor-Pelikan. With these graphics, we finish our highlight reel of the Tour of Hungary 2021 edition. We wish you a very well afternoon and invitation to be with us next year.
And lines, I had to keep on reaching up, cause it was my time to tear down the kingdom, call out the liars. Got a jail on my heart from the pessimist, got those nails in my mouth.